We've talked about how heredity is actually works and how it's passed on. Now we're going to talk about the environment. Genetics is simply the study of heredity, and it's useful in both explaining and predicting the occurrence of important traits in animals. And then there's two types of traits. One is qualitative and one is quantitative. This is just like what you've heard before in science. Quantitative has a number. The traits are measurable. Growth rate. We had a weaning weight of 550-pound animals. And we can weigh that with a scale, or growth rate can be measured in inches and it can be measured with a ruler. Qualitative is really simple. It's either or. It's what we see with our eye. You have horns, you don't have horns. An animal is red, an animal is black. So these qualitative traits are easily seen and controlled by a single gene pair. The gene expression is not affected in any way by the environment. For example, the hair coat in Angus cattle, they can either be black, and that's what you see all the advertising for, black Angus, or they can be red. That's what Cody has. Quantitative traits are expression controlled by more than one gene pair, and these expressions can be modified by environmental factors, and they're measurable. And a trait is measured by the degrees depending on the mix of genes. For example, the growth rate may be measured in pounds of weight gained each day, and then the resulting growth rate may be very low, very high, or anywhere in between. The heritability of these qualitative traits, actually your performance is your genetics plus your environment. You can have really good genetics, you can go buy a really good steer, but if you don't feed him well or house him well, you're not going to have the performance that you need. The same is true as you can have kind of a crappy steer and do a great job with his environment, and he still probably won't equal the steer that had good genetics and good environment. So heritability is the percent of performance controlled by the genetics, and the selection works best on highly heritable traits. And we separate genetics from the environment using contemporary group ratios, and we're going to do an activity with that. Expected progeny differences, which are called EPDs, and we're going to do some with that. Economic indexes, and then genomics, which is kind of a new method. And all may be used to select an animal with the best genetics for important traits. These contemporary group ratios compare animals of the same gender, which is sex, and approximate age raised under the same environmental conditions. It would be like taking a group of half brothers that were all steers that were all born in May or June and comparing them. And then this ratio is the performance of an animal divided by the group average multiplied by 100. So if we look at this, we're going to look at pigs. And boar number 1 has an average daily gain of 2.8 pounds per day. That's how much he gains each day. The pen altogether averaged 2.6. So the boar number 1 ratio was actually 2.8 divided by 2.6 times 100, and you ended up with 107.7. So that means he's better than the average, which would be 100. So animals with higher ratios are likely to sire faster gaining offspring.